YouTube, welcome back to another video, and we are going to go through and cover lower body strength, why we want to incorporate it to help improve our running performance, and also potentially why just some misconceptions that leg training may have. So I know a lot of people use it as an excuse. Oh, I'm running so I can't train my legs. Well, time to get rid of that excuse, understand why you want to be incorporating your lower body training, and obviously just give you some advice, tips, and whatever else along the way. So first of all, let's look into why leg training or leg strength matters before I break the table for running. Okay, so a few things. It's going to help increase your running economy. So it's going to improve the way that you run. It's going to improve sprint finish, any hill running power. So if you're training for a trail run or some form of uphill event in the race that you're doing, strength training, having strength in your legs is going to allow you to move better in that pattern. It's also highly going to reduce the risk of injury. This is probably the main reason for a lot of people. Okay, normally if there's a common injury occurring through the lower body, it probably comes from a weakness, and it's obviously something we want to try and get stronger. And obviously it will help maintain performance deep into the races when things get tough. Building that muscular endurance with strength training is only going to help. So there are a few of the reasons why we want to get them involved into our program. Okay, so when we look at the problem with typical leg training, so like a standard bodybuilding leg training day for runners, this is not how you want to sort of program your stuff. And this is where you could run into implications. So there's going to be too much fatigue from high reps, or too much volume, so too much sets, too many reps, for example. If you've got heavy leg session too close to your long run, so your long run's on a Saturday and you do a big heavy leg session on a Friday, your legs on the Saturday are not going to be performing as well as they could do. Okay, so heavy leg session too close to your long runs, heavy legs for the run, which is not what you want. Also, neglecting recovery is going to lead to overtraining, and that's not just for sort of lower body training, that's sort of in general. And also using exercise that don't transfer well to running. So obviously we know we run one leg at a time in a unilateral plane of motion. So, we want to probably incorporate some unilateral work, stopping the imbalances, prevention of injuries, and obviously we don't want one side completely stronger than the other. We want to try and match them as much as we can. Another reason is people go through the motions with lower body training. I think for most lads anyway, just in general, lower body training is something we go through the motion with, and it's also because they don't think that they need to train their legs because of the running, when in fact that couldn't be any further from the truth. When we look at the principles for balancing strength and running, here are a few things that I like to incorporate when it comes to programming for my clients, for myself, and for giving advice in general. So low volume, high quality. I'm a huge component, a huge fan of quality over quantity. So 2 to 3 working sets for quality, focusing on intent and what are we actually trying to get out of that movement. Is it maximal strength? Is it time under tension? Is it more power? We want to think about what we're trying to get out of this. Strength over size, okay, as well. Again, we want to aim for strength adaptations, not necessarily hypertrophy. So we don't want to be trying to get our legs as big as possible and, have veins running through our quads, etc. We want them to be strong and efficient for the task at hand with the run. Okay. Timing is key. So trying to keep your heavy lower body sessions away from the longer runs. So for me at the moment, my main lower body movements happen on a Wednesday, and then Thursday I have a rest day. So makes sense. It's going to help again, prioritize recovery. You want to make sure we're doing some mobility work, hips, adductors, abductors, glutes, calves being the main areas you want to obviously keep nice and mobile, focusing on sleep, nutrition, which again should be the case anyway. Get stronger legs, your running will only improve, okay? So do not neglect them. Do not think that by training your legs, it's going to have a negative impact on your running. It's going to do the complete opposite. Okay. Now, when we look at key lifts for runners, so these are a few that I like to include. Now, again, from a exercise perspective, it's going to come very much down to the individual. Okay. With my coaching, when someone comes on board, I'll do an assessment week in week 1, which will allow me, they'll film some of their sets, and it will allow me to see what their movement is, what's their range of motion, what's their passive range, what's their active range, everything along those lines. Therefore, I can then be more specific with the sort of programming and exercise selection. However, a few main movements that would be included would be a back or a front squat. Front squat, typically I'd use a goblet squat, just because with a front rack with the bar, it can be a little bit more technical. And obviously if we're not quite able to get in this position and hold it, it can lead into implications. So a nice goblet squat works well. Back squat, I enjoy using like a bench, more of a box squat. But this is great for obviously building lower body strength. Trap bar deadlift, probably my favorite exercise, probably the greatest of all time when it comes to movements. But here we're really thinking about the hip posterior chain power. It's going to be a lot less back stress because of the neutral position for a grip. And also I just find that it's not as much to think about compared to more of a conventional deadlift. Nice trap bar deadlifts out to the side, less skill needed, can really generate some power and load the bar quite heavy. Walking lunges, again, great for endurance, obviously carrying over, also some single leg stability. If you wanted to focus more on staying even more stable and focusing a little bit more on the power of strength, you could go into something like a Bulgarian split squat, and obviously one leg at a time. Then you got step ups. This is going to replicate your running mechanics. Great for the hips, great for coordination and improving unilateral power. This was one when I first started doing it, I was all over the gaff. My coordination was horrendous. My balance was poor and everything else. But over time, as I've just done it, reset it, small little box, step up, drive. You can then obviously put a knee drive through as well. Definitely one that I would recommend, especially if you've got sort of hills in your upcoming running event. So how would you go about programming your lower body sessions? This is just a typical how I would go about things, okay? Mobility and some activation. So it could be something like a bit of an assault bike to start with, just to get some blood flow, get the heart rate going, some legs, some movement through the upper body. A little bit of activation, could be some banded work, could be some glute bridges, could be a side plank, could be a Copenhagen plank, just to get a few bits activated. I like also incorporating some core work as well. You can do it at the start or the end, just to get everything fired up from a bracing perspective. I then go into my main lift, which is going to be a squat or a trap bar deadlift, 3 to 4 sets, 3 to 6 reps, especially if it's in more of a strength block. If it's more of a power block, then it might be slightly different with the rep ranges, might be a little bit lower, but focusing more on that power and that efficiency. We then go into some sort of accessory work. This could be sort of like a walking lunge, or a Bulgarian split squat. It could be hip extensions. What I typically like to do is if my main lift's a squat, my accessory work would be a hinge. If my main lift was a hinge, my accessory work would be a squat pattern. So just push and pull basically. So squat would be a hip extension, trap bar deadlift would be walking lunges or a split squat. And then some more accessory work. Again, step ups, fantastic for unilateral work, or a single leg extension. Now, reason why single leg extension, again, is obviously just to work one leg at a time, as opposed to doing them both together, where your stronger side may actually help the weaker side, and therefore the discrepancy will stay the same over your training program. And then we could finish off with some core work, Pallof press, cable rotations, leg raises, ab crunch, 3 sets, fairly high rep range, but again, just really thinking about keeping that core activated throughout. If we look at sort of a weekly strength and running layout example, I've just put a Monday to Sunday here. Monday could be a lower body strength. That could be your trap bar deadlift, which is 3 sets, 5 reps, 8% of your 1 rep max. Tuesday would be an easy run. So again, from a recovery perspective, it's not too taxing, nice and light on the feet. So that could be Tuesday. Wednesday would be an upper body strength day. Again, an overhead press, single arm landmine press, flat press, whatever it may be. Obviously, this is more about lower body, this whole video. Because obviously on Thursday, your speed tempo run is probably going to be one of the trickiest sessions, because you're going to be working at high capacity, max intent if you're doing like interval stuff. Tempo runs as well, depending on your duration, is going to be some fairly bit of hard work. So upper body isn't going to have too much of a knock-on effect on that Thursday session. Friday, you could then go into a full body strength session. So for me, this is what I do, because I will run typically my long run on a Saturday, like in this example. And that full body strength for the lower body stuff is a lot more sort of some power work, some isometrics, some accessories, just, nothing too brutal, because I don't want to be carrying fatigue over into Saturday. And then the rest of that full body strength session is some upper body work, maybe some accessories, a lot of core, some mobility work to begin with, because I know Saturday's the big day. Saturday being your long run, dependent, again, where you are with your training program will depend the distance on that. Sunday, a complete day of rest. Another thing you could do if you wanted is you could potentially look to partner up some of these sessions. So you could do Wednesday, you could do your speed tempo run in the morning, upper body strength in the afternoon, and have Thursday off. That's similar to what I do, just to give you an extra rest day if that is something that you wanted and it fitted in your schedule quite nicely. So there's a recap. Lower body strength session, how to go about it. It's not going to neglect your running. It's not going to negatively impact your running, should I say. Strong legs is going to help you get better at running is also going to obviously allow you to stay injury free. And if you're injury free, you're going to be able to run more, which is exactly what you want. Okay, train for strength and not necessarily for mass or hypertrophy. Like I've said, don't be going in there thinking, right, leg day, 3 sets of 15 leg extensions, then some leg curls, then a leg press, then a split squat, then something else, and go in there with, what am I trying to get out of this movement? What's the goal? Okay, train for strength, power. Is it some plyometric work? Whatever it may be, each exercise should have a certain goal. Make sure to obviously space out your heavy leg sessions from key runs. The last thing you want to be doing is, like I've said, doing a big heavy leg session on a Friday and then you've got 35k to run on a Saturday. It's not going to be ideal. And then also with everything is keep recovery as priority. Okay, that goes without saying. Again, it's not just for lower body, this is just training in general, but especially when we look at sort of the lower body stuff, we want to make sure recovery markers are where they need to be. Sleep, downtime, mobility, walking, sauna, steam, whatever it is, that is obviously something you want to include into your week. So there we have it, a little bit more in depth in terms of lower body strength training for runners, and obviously going through some myths that may be out there. But if we enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.